Hello and welcome to part 2 of my latest video analysis, preparing your team for Matchday. In this part we will look at how I transferred the data picked up from part 1 of the series and used it to implement a match-specific game model. If you haven't looked at part 1 of the series, I would recommend you to do so, as it will better help you understand some of the concepts utilised in this video. So in picking up from where we left off, we found from the analysis that our opponent sets up in a 4-2-3-1 shape that quickly switches to a 2-4-3-1 of sorts, with the fullbacks pushing into the midfield line and the ball side winger inverting. We also noted that there was an emphasis in their play to find switch balls in behind the left back and to place 2 attackers inside the box when encountering cross balls. Within their defensive shape, we also noted that they morphed into a 4-1-4-1 shape, with their midfielders pressing tightly against their opponents, and the unit shifting forward aggressively in a high block. Their overall shape began very narrow, which set up pressing traps on the outside, when the inside centre-back passed to the full-back, encouraging pressure to shift over. So when putting together how I plan to deal with the opposition analysis, I use these 3 principles as guiding factors in building our game model. In looking at the first principle of using the opponent to set out our team formation, I've done so and settled on using a 3-1-4-2 system of play. Looking at the matchups within each formation, I felt the back 3 system would allow us to defend all 5 channels effectively and counter the opponent's offensive movements. I also felt that within the highlighted areas, we would present our opponent problems that would result in them moving away from their preferred defensive shape. In preparing the players for this particular system and integrating our game strategy, I focused on 3 defensive movements and 3 offensive movements. I've included links to the session plans that I ran prior to this game on the website. However, here are some images that will allow you to see a high-level view of my specific areas of focus. When working on our defensive shape, I first of all implemented a line of confrontation for the strikers, which would give the remainder of the team a structure in which to build back from. This line allowed the team to sit in a medium block, but also placed the outside midfielders back in the defensive line, shifting their shape to a 5-3-2 without the ball. The highlighted areas were the pressing traps that we set, allowing the ball to move wide to the opposition centre-back or full-back, and apply group pressure from there. The back 5 line gave us an additional defender in which to deal with the opponent's winger, who on the ball side inverted into our half spaces, and a retreating wing back joining the back line also allows us to pick up any outside or overlapping runs. The final defensive strategy we looked at varied based on the height of the ball. However, in essence, it saw the strikers working with the central midfielders to switch positions and still apply effective pressure on the ball in wide areas. Now looking at our moves within possession, we worked on a simple up, back and through technique through the lines. However, in this instance we wanted to find our forwards as early as possible, specifically their feet. The clearing of the half space allows this movement to happen, which we'll see later on in the video. Utilising 2 strikers, we also worked on twin striker movements, with one checking to the ball and the other running off the shoulder of his marker to penetrate the back line. Using the wing backs to provide forward balls gave us a natural space in which to do this, or provide this from, as the opponent's full-back would likely press forward and vacate a space at the side of the centre-backs. The final piece we worked on was using our left wing back as a focal point in attack if he was unmarked and we were able to find him. He was utilised as our first point of transition, knowing that the full back he was coming up against was extremely offensive minded. So let's head over and see the game. So let's look at our defensive movements that tried to nullify our opponent's threats. Please note the team I'm coaching is the team in royal blue, and our opponent is dressed in sky blue. So what you'll see here is the right fullback isn't able to find feet and he has to play into the air, mainly because all 5 of our defenders are marking up their targets and there isn't now a natural pass and possession option into the forward line. What we'll see right away here is the distance between the strikers is very narrow, forcing the ball to the outside. Now as this play reaches in the outside, our inside centre-back matches the winger who's cutting inside, and the two wing-backs drop in to form a back four shape, giving us nice and tight coverage. Defensive transition of the team now sees that our entire group shape is shifted back, and it forms a nice little tight pocket that around the ball we're able to sit narrow and compact, force and play wide. Now again we'll see the connectivity between the strikers and central midfielders has forced the ball wide, and our two wing backs are in position to mark the outside midfielders. Once again we're shifting across, we're keeping a nice tight compact shape. We'll see again between the central midfielders and the strikers. We force play wide. Our wing backs now able to get forward and apply pressure on the ball, purely because we're the strength of numbers we have on the ball side. And we continue to force play wide and back, now forcing the defence to pass back to the keeper, and his poor kick out leads to a turnover in possession. Now we'll see the defensive midfielder's frustration has led him to drop in. The strikers remain connected, as do the wing backs remain connected to the back line. Now we'll see they're looking to expose that space on the outside, but the striker's connectivity allows him to drop back and force the play wide. They've went through midfield and dropped it back in, but now as there's no natural short option, they've had to go long, and there's a turnover in possession. Once again, we see the defensive midfielder dropping in to pick up play and turn and play forward. Now as this happens, we see that rotational movement. The striker's not able to get out to the fullback, however the midfielder is. Therefore they're able to switch positions. The midfielder provides a cover screen, allowing the striker to drop back in and pick up play if it gets into the midfield. The 6 also comes over now to apply secondary pressure, and we win possession. A quick free kick here really tests our defensive transition to get back into our shape, but we'll see again that the striker's not able to get out, so he drops in the inside channel, with the midfielder applying ball pressure on the outside channel, forcing play back. The strikers again are nice and tight together, denying play in the centre, which again forces play wide and then back, now allowing us to go man for man in central areas, forcing the goalkeeper to go long. In this shot again, the defensive midfielder is dropped deep. There's now a secondary midfielder that drops in, but the connectivity between the two strikers to be there, pick up possession, has allowed us to break forward and score a goal. So what we see in this shot here is the outside fullback overlapping. What we're able to now do is create a 3-on-3 in that outside channel, denying the overload, while still maintaining two solid lines of the back 3 that's in the middle and the 6 that screens them. So let's change our focus now and have a look at the offensive movements of the team to break down our opponent. Right away you'll see in our first build here we've positioned our 3 centre backs the width of the box, all with the emphasis that they want to go forward, they want to break that first line of press and find the midfield. As the player engages on a dribble here, you'll see everyone in the central area is marked. Therefore we need to utilise the wing back on the left side, so he shows good skill to beat his mark and find this ball in the back line. As the wing back now drives forward under pressure, we'll see the twin striker movements of the ball side forward moving inside and the weak side forward making a run in behind the back line. We also have our attacking midfielder breaking in central areas, utilising that poor defensive transition that we saw in the analysis video. With 2 people now in the box, it gives us a good chance, should we get a cross in there, to get a chance on goal. So we'll see here as we build again, the left wing back's positioning, getting himself high and wide, forcing the winger now to make a decision. Does he engage in the ball or does he drop back and find his positioning? We'll also see that in central midfield now, we have 3 players. all of which are positioned to clear the space that we see in the yellow shaded area to allow a forward pass into the striker. The player circled in red essentially has left his area and moved into a central channel to draw pressure and allow an entry pass into the now vacant forward. With the forward now having time and space to turn, we've created a 4-player overload in that central area against only 3 opponents, allowing the wing-back to get himself forward and stretch play. As we'll see, it doesn't quite work in this particular play, but it's certainly something that will help us in the future. What we'll see here is play shifts across to the right hand side as the player circled in blue will move away from his channel into an inside space, vacating that channel into the forward and allowing the defender to break the lines and the wing back to now get higher to receive the ball versus circulating it to the outside. The striker now is able to turn, allowing the midfielder to join the highest line and become a second forward. And the penetrative pass doesn't quite work out for them, but we're now able to get the opponent turned and face their own goal. So as we'll see in our build-up here, the 2 outside centre-backs have dropped a touch deeper and the team in sky blue haven't put a third man forward. This now allows our wing-back to stretch high and wide on the weak side, and our centre-back is now able to play a forward pass unopposed into that wide area. We'll quickly see here the 2-man combination from the forward comes off, with this near side player making the run, the far side receiving. The opponent gives away a foul in this instance, but again we're starting to get the opponent turned and facing their own goal. Again we'll see here the up, back and through playing. The striker checks to receive, the weak side striker makes a run off, and again a ball in behind, forcing the opponent to defend facing their own goal. So in offensive transition here, we're able to break a line, looking at the forward's movement now to get in behind the defensive line and the near side forward to check. That stretches the back line, but it also sees our forward come out and rebuild again. That number 6 in front of the back 3 gives us a nice little diamond shape in which to play around the front lines of press. And in this particular shape here, we're able to see the 6 look up and find the winger taking a space between the right back and right midfield and really now stretching the opponent's back line out on that weak side. So as we saw in our scouting video, our opponent wants us to play wide here, which will allow them to set their pressing trap. Instead, we want to utilise our midfielders to receive the ball after we've broken the first line of press and now find a free man as the wing back on the outside. In this instance here, we see the full back goes to press the wing back, which gives now the midfielder time to get into that space in behind the full back. This gives us 2 versus 2 in the middle, or as we see here as the centre back gets drawn to the ball, 2 versus 1, but unfortunately in this instance we're not able to capitalise. So we'll see here the 6 drives forward, looking to again to play wide to the outside wing back. In this instance though, he uses the forward to bounce the ball off for an up, back and through. The forward chooses not to use it, allowing the 10 to run beyond him, and now the wing back's in a position to find a cross into the box, and the number 10 creates the overload. So we'll see here that our opponent's press is matched as man for man centrally, which forces our centre back to find that wing back on the weak side. Ultimately, because our 2 strikers occupy their centre backs, the full back isn't able to get touch tight, which allows our wing back to be free to play a forward ball. Now we're able to utilise the poor defensive transition from the midfielder, allowing our attacking midfielder to join and make it 3 versus 2. So now we'll see our opponent is now 1 possession, starting their play of their winger coming inside and the full back making that forward run. As they lose possession now, our offensive transition allows us to break into that left space through our number 10, who's able to find a ball in behind the back. So now that we've saw some of the tactical breakdowns in the game, let's take a moment to enjoy all of the goals. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to check out my video analysis of preparing your team for match day. I hope in some way it helped you in your own professional development and it's able to assist your own learning. If you'd like to contact me directly to discuss this video further or any other football related topics, you can do so on Twitter by my handle @AliBain. Also be sure to head over to our website, thesidelinereview.com, or that website's Twitter handle